Thank you. 15 minutes is not very long, so I won't hang about. I'll just get on with it. I'd like to thank the other panellists because when I read their papers, I knew there was no point in translating them. So I thought, let's look to the future because of what we have now. And the industry's reacted to what's going on, but we've still got to move. Armed security guards, I'm all for, but can we sustain them? That's the problem. Certification armed security guards, to answer Apostle's question, there's going to be a bloodletting. The good guys that are committed to it and making the standards, they'll survive. The cowboys will go because it's not worth any company having them. The risks are too high, and of course the PRI clubs, if they look and it's not in place, they're going to walk away, so you're not covered. But piracy is not going to go away. And a lot of people are deluded. I deal with piracy, criminalisation, all sorts every day of my life. The Somali pirates are not poor fishermen. It's a complex international business model that stretches from Somalia and has a main base of operations in London for a lot of the negotiations and the money that gets transferred. And I was so glad to hear, because the incidents are down, because we changed the way statistics are there, they're probing all the time. Next year, 2014, there's going to be a big change in the Horn of Africa because if the funding goes, most of the warships go, and the only thing that's left in their place is armed security guards to take up the slack. And you have the other dimension that nobody has really mentioned yet, is the Yemen is now a failed state. Al-Qaeda and Hezbollah are taking over. How soon will it be before they take members from Al-Shabaab across, from Somalia, train them up, and it's going to come from both sides? It's going to be a choke point. It's going to be difficult, and I expect to see piracy there rising again. West Africa is a nightmare. It really is. It's ultra-violent. They don't care what happens. And it's, you actually read some of the reports, you speak to people who survived it, and it's ruthless. I mean, they'll come on board just to steal from a ship. And at the end of this, I'm going to talk about a captain who had a really bad day on West Africa off Togo. And I'll tell you about that. But where are we going to go? What are we going to do? Because it ends up, no matter what everybody else says, the ship owner's going to have to foot the bill. And so I thought we'd look at some of the parts. Do we have the cost of doing business as armed security guards? Well, at the moment, the answer is yes. As their P&I Club representative said, no ship, I've heard rumours that one ship was attacked that had armed security guards, but I've got no definite confirmation of it. So if you look at statistics, it works. Now, if it's so expensive, do we then think, well, do we train the crew, weapons training, and ships carry their own armoury? Now, that's contradictory to having a merchant ship, but it can be done in times of war. And therefore, within the national legislation, if you declared areas of piracy as war risk areas, there would be a factor. But there again, do crews want to learn to shoot guns? Do they want to be doing weapons training? How would they be compensated? Is it viable, the cost against armed security guards for short periods? There's a lot of different things to be considered. Or do we go right the way back and not harden ships? I'm so glad to see there's a lot of parts of the industry working towards systems to help existing ships harden to stop access of pirates. But do we really want that, or do we go back in future generations and design ships from before the keel is laid, that they're built to be security citadels, not a place within the ship, the whole ship itself? And so, the investment in that will be huge. A lot of rules would have to be rewritten. And how does the ship owner justify the additional cost? And will they be able to get return on investment? Or do we take the whole lot I've said here, bring it together, and try to find a common solution that will make things work? Now, the MLC Regulation 2.5 deals with repatriation of seafarers. Some talk about abandonment, etc. In many cases, seafarers become abandoned if they become hijacked. And everybody passes the buck around about who's responsible for what. And it can be quite a lot of money, quite a lot of time. As we were already talking about, West Africa's short time. But there's been cases in Somalia of crew being held captive for over 1,000 days. And the ship owners declared the ship relinquished all title to ship, cargo and everything. It's been the fact that international charities, people from the countries of origins of the crew have come together to raise the money, the millions, to pay it. And one of the things at the moment that's going on is the law of diminishing returns. Because there's no successful pirate attacks, they still need the money to operate. And so any successful pirate attack, the demands for the ransom is far higher now than what it was before, because they're not getting as many ships. But we could use the MLC, if it came to it, within the insurance for abandonment, to increase it so that it was involved if crew were abandoned because a ship had been hijacked. It's something else to be thought about without starting new parts. Piracy and the fatigue of crew. Fatigue, mental fatigue, physical fatigue. Physical fatigue, you get tired, you have a sleep. Have something to eat, wake up, you start again. Mental fatigue, you're passing or operating an area of pirates. Apart from the extra hours needed to work, it's a stress on you. What's going to happen? What do we do? What will happen to my family? So this, not just the increase in workload, because of it. So other parts we have to look at is, can you suspend the hours of work and rest regulations for passing through an area of piracy? A lot of people would say no, because it's part of the normal operation of the ship, because we've now accepted piracy as a way of life. So once again, private armed security guards take on the main role, the crew then maintain proper working conditions, you meet it. But all of these are fatigue factors, and of course if you have crew fatigued, then accidents happen, incidents take place that normally wouldn't. So this is another factor we've got to be looking at for the long term, because as we've all agreed here, piracy is not going away. There's not the will in the world, there's not the money available for the infrastructure projects in these countries to take them. I have heard, I've spoken to a couple of people out of Somalia, that some of the pirates now are offering ships escort services. Whereas, so if you pay them, they won't board you and you won't get attacked. I think that's quite a clever idea. You know, I mean, you know, and that's why I say, don't think of this as idiots. They're anything but. They do get into trouble sometimes. I had one ship, a Pakistani businessman paid the ransom for the Pakistani crew members. That was fine, $2.5 million. They got released, but the rest of the crew of the other nationalities had to stay. Within a week, there was gun battles between the pirates and their investors of who kept the rest of the hostages. So they were killing each other, and luckily none of the hostages were killed. But this is what it's all about, power and play. Now, fact is stranger than fiction. I don't know if you've read it. The Ocean Centurion raises some worrying facts. The ship was a tanker registered in the Marshall Islands. It was attacked in international waters by pirates who looted the ship. Bad day. The captain, Sunil James, an Indian national, who got injured in the attack, a wrist injury, took the ship to Togo national waters to report the incident. Good man. He's now in jail in Togo, accused of allegedly conniving with the pirates. And the basis of this is because two of the pirates were reported to be Indian nationals or of Indian extract. It would be interesting to see how the evidence was obtained to make this connection to legally hold the master in this affair. And this goes on. Piracy, criminality of the seafarer, especially criminality of the shipmaster. You'd be surprised at how quickly it's growing, and the number of shipmasters and officers and crew who are in prison around the world. It's one of the things I deal with a lot, and there's no protection. A lot of masters are very sad. They believe the company took care of them through the P&I Club. The P&I Clubs do a lot of good work, but their interest is the ship owner, because it's the ship owner that pays the premium, and a lot of time masters are sacrificed to get the ship let go. I could tell you the stories, but it's neither here nor there because we're dealing with piracy. And finally, we've put the Martha project on. The Martha project is the second phase from Project Horizon, looking at fatigue factors. It's a very, very good opportunity. IFSMA is a stakeholder within the Martha project, funded by the EU, because there's no point talking. We've been talking about fatigue of crews for, I don't know, since I've been at sea we've talked about it. That's 44 years. So it's going forward, but there are other factors that in my day weren't there. And if people get tired, they had a few extra whiskies or beers or went and slept off and carried on. But of course, now you're not allowed to drink. So it puts other pressures on. But what I'd like to do, if we've got a few minutes, is just to show the Martha, if you would. Is it possible? No. Which one? I know. I haven't got my eyes on. I can see them. I can't see the screen. Where are we? The next one. Okay, close that. Okay. Oh. No, it doesn't want to play. Ah, here we go. Okay. Although the TK Foundation are the major sponsors, there's a lot of other money involved in this. And it's trying to bring to life what actually goes on board the ship under simulation. Different people have joined into it. The main part of the work is going forward at the University of Southampton. And Mike Barnett, Professor Mike Barnett, he's in charge of it, and we do. Two major outcomes out was shipping companies. Take ownership of your fatigue risk by raising awareness of fatigue risk through cultural change programs on sleep hygiene for seafarers and managers. And managers. How often do we hear about, nobody's written any rules about hours of work and rest for people who work in shipping companies. You just do the job, don't you? You know, nobody says, oh, well, you've done a 10-hour shift, you better go and have a rest now, we'll see you tomorrow. If something happens, you have to respond, and that's just the way shipping goes. Planning and monitoring voyage workload by using a fatigue risk management system, which may include a fatigue prediction model for voyage planning. It's not saying the second mate will get tired, so you have to relieve them, because we don't have enough people for that. But what they're saying, how the voyage cycle goes from leaving the port to the export, at certain levels, there'll be more of a demand on the crew, and therefore they are needed. And that's going to increase the hours of work, break the cycle for the biorhythms for sleeping, and that has a knock-on effect to fatigue. Fatigue risk management systems. The Safety Board continues to call for the development of fatigue management systems, which take a comprehensive approach to reducing fatigue-related risk. These systems should be based on empirical and scientific evidence and should include a methodology to continually assess their effectiveness. National Training and Safety Board. It sounds nice. How many seafarers do you know would have written that? Nobody would, because academics write it, but not actually people who work in being ships or shipping companies. But we're trying to get to the bottom of this. I mean, we place these guys that come and do these testings in the Martha and Horizon project. They get all these sensors strapped onto their head. And then they get like bandages all around to hold them in place. And then they work, and then they're told to go to separate rooms to sleep. And then you call them to get their rate, and you watch the brain patterns, all the different waves. And the worst one is you can get them to think, oh, we're just leaving the English Channel, so next time I'm called, we'll be mid-ocean. So that they're actually pre-prepared their brain for what they think. But when you call them instead, it's the middle of the night in the Singapore Straits, and every ship's going every way but the right way. And you just watch the brain patterns going absolutely crazy. So we have all this. But the original model, ARTER, was developed by the Stress Research Institute in Stockholm after years of research into shift working ashore and in aviation. It's been aviation that's led this. Project Horizon added novel information on off-watch sleep patterns and validated fatigue prediction model for shipping operations, which was Martha. Martha is only a prototype. It requires user evaluation, feedback and development. Martha is a sleep predictor based on a sleep-wake model, and this version should be designed for average watchkeepers, not individual day workers. And the whole point here is, I'm not going to take you on a run further. You've got Project Horizon. You can download it. Project Martha is downloaded. You can contact Mike Barnett. And one of the things that will come out is there's the MCA's The Human Element guide, and it's available on the MCA website. You can download for free as well. It's a 125-page document with a lot of useful information. Behavioural-based safety, which we talked about earlier, which I believe has to be linked to what we're looking at for the way we work with different things, but also should be an integral part of a just culture for how companies operate. So thank you very much indeed for your time.